Us, our thoughts, we are the ones who disrupt our own healing.
Sometimes unconsciously, subconsciously, based upon self-perception, based upon our perception of the world. All of these things collectively generate a baseline of energy. And that either is harmonious with, resonant with cosmic law, natural law, or it's distorted. If we think we're not enough, whatever the case may be, then our own vibrational frequency shifts. It becomes incoherent with nature.
What if the power to heal your body, calm your mind, and awaken your purpose was already inside of you? What if stress or anxiety or disconnection you feel isn't a flaw, but it's actually a signal that your energy isn't broken, it's just blocked? Today on Heal Thyself, I am joining the incredible Dr. Sue Morter. She's an international speaker, master of bioenergetic medicine, and a best-selling author of The Energy Code. Her work is transforming the way that you think about healing by showing you how to access your soulful self through your body's own energy systems. In this conversation today, we are going to explore how your body's energy field holds the actual self-healing, what it really means to be spiritual connected, and how that connection grounds us in the middle of all that chaos. And we got simple, powerful practices from the energy codes that you can use today to reconnect to your true essence, and how waking up to your soulful self doesn't just change your health, it actually changes your life. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop outsourcing your healing and start going from within? This is the podcast we're going into with Dr. Sue Morter. Thank you for joining this episode of Heal Thyself. To support the show, please rate, review, and subscribe. It gives us the opportunity to really expand this knowledge to people who need it most, and you can do your part by just sharing the love. Again, thank you for listening. I'm forever grateful, and I love you all. Let's get started. All right, Dr. Sue, thank you for coming on the show. You know, it has been a year that I was interested in getting on the show, and this is a series of events that is beautiful. One of my longtime friends from high school is your nephew. So this is a very special guest I have here, connected through many years of synchronicity, finally having this conversation that is essential. Now, viewers and listeners out there, if you don't know how important energetic medicine is for your physical, mental, full health, then you're going to learn it here. Dr. Sue's been doing it for a very long time. Okay, so Doc.
Yes.
Energy medicine, your passion, you never get tired of doing this. Every day is exciting for you. I can feel it coming out of your bones. But I have a question from the whole audience already.
Yeah.
Does energetic medicine fall at the foundation of physical and mental health?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, let me say thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here. It's great to connect with you. And thank you for doing what you're doing in the world by bringing people together in this way. It's so significant.
Thank you.
So yes, the short answer is yes. And the reason for that is everything is energy. Everything, that chair that you're sitting in is energy. The cars that we drive, they're energy compressed. The screens that people are looking at, watching this, are made of energy, just compressed into different vibrational frequencies. And so are we. And so our thoughts are at a different vibrational frequency, a different level of compression than our emotions, and different than our chemistries, just flat out chemistry, and different than the physical body, the tissue, etc. So if you unpack it all, it ultimately just becomes this giant unified energy field. So the closer we can get to working with the raw energy, the closer to the causal level we are with anything, whether it's a mental ailment, a physical ailment, an emotional upheaval, or a spiritual crisis, whatever it is, it's a disruption in the natural flow and resonance of the energy field in some fashion, usually brought on by prolonged malperception, misperception, or injury. And even if it's injury, it's supposed to heal automatically. And if it isn't healing automatically, there's a reason for that. And it usually has to do with how we're using our faculties, how we're using our minds to disrupt the energy consciously or unconsciously, of course, usually unconsciously. But it leads to the body's inability to heal itself as it's designed to do.
And that's what we know. We see that as kids. We cut our knee and it just happens, and we don't question it. We break a bone and it happens. So you're saying here we have this energetic field that governs all healing, homeostasis, balance in this world, and it's disrupted. And you're saying one of the biggest disruptions to it are us, our thoughts. We are the ones who disrupt our own healing.
Yes, not always consciously, sometimes unconsciously, subconsciously, based upon self-perception, based upon our perception of the world, who we are in the world, how we fit in. All of these things collectively generate a baseline of energy. And that either is harmonious with, resonant with cosmic law, natural law, or it's distorted. If we think we're not enough, or we think we don't belong, or we are othering the power, or othering our ability to heal, or whatever the case may be, then our own vibrational frequency shifts. And as it declines, it becomes incoherent with nature. And so nature, trying to pass through a system that is now thwarted or distorted, has a very difficult time doing so. And actually, ironically, it will implode whatever is in its way. The power of nature is that great. And so cellular structure starts to collapse. We end up with chronic degenerative diseases that actually take us out of the game because nature's going to have its way. It is what it is. And it's sort of like, don't mess with it. Just, resonate with it, align with it. It sometimes requires a surrender, requires reevaluating who we are. It usually requires up-leveling who we perceive ourselves to be and allowing ourselves to be more aligned with what is instead of resisting it or thinking things should be different than they are constantly.
The surrender piece being such a major part of healing that we kind of miss. We just want to, this is bothering me and I need to fix it.
Yeah.
I need to fix it. I need to fix it. And I want to go into that mentality in a moment. But when I think about this like unified field, as you say, this is nature expressing itself, right? And it's expressing itself through us. And if we block it or thwart it, as you say, with our own stories that could be subconscious or conscious, kind of built this identity, then wouldn't it be so that maybe we are sort of meant to go through this process of thwarting it in order to go through this process of healing? Is that part of it? Like what I'm trying to say is like these identities we build, the hardships we have, the pain we have, the diseases we have, is that part of the process in itself?
Sure. It's part of an evolutionary process. It doesn't have to be that hard. But if we've gotten off track and we're into some distorted reality that we keep trying to outrun or affirm, either way, at some point, if it's not aligned with this highest true nature of who we are and what's happening, then something's got to give, and it's going to be us. And in the process of that, usually the false self collapses, and a person now has a crisis on their hands of some sort, and they start searching. They start looking around, like, what should I do differently? What's going on here? And they eventually find themselves in some sort of seeking, and they find the various tools that are required to put themselves back, not back together again, but together again in a new way. The way that they were originally, supposed to be in the first place. So we don't have to suffer in order to evolve, but if we are suffering, you can pretty well bet it's a part of our evolution. And if we learn how to manage that properly, it serves, and we learn and we awaken to higher and higher states of consciousness, translating to better and better versions of who I am, far beyond whatever I actually anticipated or dreamt of. And so, we've all kind of experienced stuff like this. Like if you've had a really tough time in your life and you can look back on it years later and say, I'm actually, kind of grateful that happened because I learned this and this and this about myself, or I learned that I could get through that. And so I can't, so we start to develop a disposition of really trusting what's happening now, because in a few years I might be able to look back on even this and say the same thing. And so it's really a matter of developing ways of perceiving what is happening now in terms of allowing that to be of truly of a supporting prop to encourage us to that awakening to a higher and higher way of interpreting life.
This is fundamental, this awakening to higher versions of who you are, who you're kind of meant to embody in this world. But you got me thinking, and I keep feeling like the sense of surrender then. It's like, I'm thinking of many patients I've had in the past when I had the white coat on, and they're chronically ill, right? So we're giving them physical stuff. They're kind of getting better, some supplements, some dietary shifts. They're working out a little more, going on walks, seeing nature a little more. Circadian rhythms are getting better. But in my heart, fundamentally, I felt that, okay, I don't have tools back then as a psychiatrist, a therapist. I didn't really know how to lead them into deeper levels. Now I feel comfortable. Ironic, they don't have a white coat on anymore. But I'm thinking about all these people. Should one of the first interventions then be to look at the stories that are blocking that unified field of expressing in its own nature through you? Is that one of the first things we should look at? Or do we have it backwards in medicine? That's my big question.
Yeah. Oh, so many ways we can turn the whole thing inside out and really make a lot of progress rapidly. I work with energy. You speak about, should we investigate the stories that might be involved in the interruptions of this natural flow? And yes, on some level, those stories need to be, at least honored in the role that they might be playing with the whole issue that is at hand. But I also find that the majority of what's actually interrupting the field's flow is at the subconscious level. And so a patient or a client has a difficult time accessing what it is that is actually in their way. It's like Einstein saying you can't solve the problem on the same level as created. So we're looking at how to access the subconscious, how to really speak directly into the subconscious. So really it becomes more about working with the energy underneath the story, and how that energy flows through our body is a great way to begin working with it. In that, if someone can feel a knot in their stomach, they're already tuned into what I'm talking about. If they've ever had a lump in their throat when they wanted to go to say something or try to address something with someone and they're very intimidated about, moving into that, there's a reason for that. It has to do with a lack of circuitry in those areas, accessing those aspects of their whole being that are not turned on yet. They're not dialed in, or they're not connected in some way. Maybe they got shut down from some past experience, and they unknowingly haven't turned on those circuits again. And so if they've ever been in a situation where they got an upset stomach, they get a tightness in their neck or a headache instantly when somebody starts a certain conversation, all these are clues to how energy is being disrupted flowing through the body. So we can start to learn the language that the body is speaking, because it's trying to translate how this energy is expressing or not. And as such, whether it shows up as a symptom pattern that doesn't heal, or just a symptom that is circumstantial based on the circumstances that they are in, with the upset stomach, the lump in the throat, the tightness in the neck. But all of it is really giving us a clue to how energy behaves and how our conscious or subconscious is managing it as it's trying to move through the physical body. So the stories matter. And if someone can't even recall the story, we still can have access to what has happened, what was the nature of the issue, and how it is impeding this natural healing flow of energy through the body. So the good news is the person doesn't have to remember what the stories were. Sometimes these things were pre-verbal, pre-mobile, laying in the crib. Mom and dad are, having a big argument across the room. Pots and pans are flying, and it's affecting, little infant laying there. And infant Joey isn't going to remember necessarily quickly enough to get rid of the symptom patterns that at 25 he's experiencing that, believe it or not, can be related all the way back to those moments. I mean, I know that you work with these kinds of things, and I know that people are oftentimes shocked at what it is that's playing a role in their asthmas and allergies and headaches and inability to digest or sleep at night or heal pain patterns, or coming up with chronic degenerative circumstances in their lives as they get older, that it all relates back to some very early impressions that got set in place. Not that those impressions, even if they weren't favorable, are to blame. I truly feel that all of it is playing a role in in our evolution. Like we land in a place that's going to give certain sets of circumstances to us so that we learn how to be present in them. There's just this divine order to everything.
And that's exactly it. What you're saying is there's so much deeper complexity than we think, because the timeline of whatever we went through, and I'm thinking about people who grew up in traumatic households, or they never really felt safe or in their home or in partnership, and who are really struggling mentally and by virtue of that physically, how, like you said, there's a divine order. And that kind of gives us a moment of like, okay, really shitty things happen in my life and I don't have to be a victim, right? Yeah. You can sort of like shift that energy to being more empowered. And that in itself changes so much. But I'm so interested in this conversation. Like, I would need to have more conversations like this first and foremost. Let's say if you recommend other people who are like this, please, because this type of stuff brings me so much life, because I get it and I really resonate with it. So now we have someone who's been having chronic gut issues, chronic back pain. Their throat tightens up every time they go home for Thanksgiving, and they're in therapy and they're talking it over, but like, it may not be getting fully better. The role of energetics is such that it brings more presence to the body's communication systems.
Yes.
And you're saying these communication systems, like these disruptions, these pains, these aches, these bloating, whatever it is, all of it is the body's language of showing you something that is off in the circuitry. You know I'm serious about training. You know I'm serious about recovery. You know I'm serious about getting really fit. At my age, 40 years old, we want to be like I'm 20-year-old fit, right? And I learned a lot about quality supplements over my years, especially in school. And let me tell you, there's a supplement called Puori O3 Ultra Pure Fish Oil. It is the best one in the industry, okay? Best across the board. They only use small fish. They test every single batch against 200 contaminants, 200. And it's essential, especially because a lot of us have really low EPA and DHA. When I was running tests, nutritional tests on people, this was oftentimes something that was really, really low, and it's essential for heart health, brain health, eye health. And guess what? Overall research is also showing that EPA and DHA balance, omega-3s, is really, really important for muscle recovery and strength. So if you're active, it's essential. This is a go-to that I put every morning in my little cup. 2,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA in their natural form, and it's certified both clean and sustainable. I know I'm getting the best omega-3s in the game. Puori is offering you 20% off of this fish oil, and actually all of their products. Just go to puori.com/DRG and use the code DRG at checkout. That is PUORI.com/DRG. We spend a third of our lives sleeping, yet most of us do not even think about what we're sleeping on. And when I discovered that many conventional mattresses actually contain fiberglass and harmful chemicals, I knew we needed something better, for sure. And that's why I switched my mattress to Birch. This was years ago, and I still yell from the mountains about how important Birch is. And what sets Birch apart is their commitment to organic materials. We're talking about the organic cotton, organic wool, 100% natural latex. And the wool is ethical, and it's a natural flame retardant, and it doesn't have the fiberglass in it. And for someone like me who sleeps hot, these materials are incredible at really regulating the temperature. The best part is every Birch mattress is Scots and Green Guard Gold certified, meaning no harsh chemicals or pollutants. Plus, they make it really easy with free delivery, optional setup, and removal of your mattress. And here's an exclusive offer. You, the Heal Thyself listener, get 27% off of your mattress, plus 2 free EcoRest pillows. Go to birchliving.com/healthyself and use the promo code BirchPartner2.
Yes. It's simply responding to the fact that energy isn't allowed to flow freely through the body. And the quality of energy that is blocked will determine the types of pain patterns, disease conditions, symptom patterns that someone develops. So if it's an issue of, feeling like the weight of the world is on my back, for instance, somebody's going to end up with low back stuff. If somebody's constantly aggravated and irritated and agitated, they're going to end up with neck, shoulder stuff. It happens all the time. If someone has a really hard time digesting what's going on in their life, like I just can't accept that they said this or they did that or they keep doing this and they stay attached to that, they're going to have digestive problems because it's a holographic universe, and everything that exists in your outer world is going to exist in your inner world. And in fact, it becomes even the reverse. This whole quantum flip happens where, because it's not happening in my body, the energy isn't flowing, I continue to create circumstances in my outer world that are the holographic representation of that. Wow. So if I'm not internally, digesting or accepting or embracing some part of myself, then it's going to be reflected back to me from the outer world. It's like we're walking through a movie that we're projecting. We're projecting a movie onto a movie screen, and we're walking through that movie trying to figure out what's going on on the inside. But because most people can't see what's going on the inside, they're projecting it into the outer world around them, and it eventually starts to reveal. And so what is unsettled here becomes unsettled in a relationship, or becomes unsettled in a family dynamic, or out in one's career, etc. So it's all happening everywhere all the time. So the energy is just trying to do its thing. And in whatever ways it gets thwarted or distorted, it's going to show up in symptom patterns that have a resonance with that part of our wholeness as well.
I love that. Man, that is, man, I haven't heard someone say that on this show, so I'm so happy about saying the holographic expression. Yeah. So then if I have a friend who's calling me up saying, Christian, again, these problems are happening, I can always in my mind's eye go, holographic universe. Yeah. This is something that is being projected consistently. Because I can think of some friends of mine, will hear the same quality of stories happening over cyclically. And you go, I wonder if it's expressing out through you. It's a projection of internally. Mm-hmm. And I love that you had kind of gave a little bit of a map on what happens in the body and how it expresses.
Yeah, and it means the list is almost endless.
Yeah, of course, because there's so many.
Yeah.
So when there's a lot of women who listen to this show and they have menstrual issues, menstrual pain, they may have problems with their bleed. Maybe they don't have their bleed anymore. There's a lot of menstrual things that are happening. And for me, sometimes I think, okay, yeah, environmentally, there's a lot of crap in the food and we're breathing in. But is there an energetic imprint, something that's not flowing? What's the flavor of that?
Oh my goodness, yes. I wish when somebody asks me the question like this, I wish I wasn't a woman saying this, because it's going to sound like, we're all suppressed. But I don't mean it that way. I just mean that there is a feminine quality to our wholeness that has been suppressed for millennia. And when women are of an age of producing and reproducing, and there is a fertileness about them, there is a tremendous amount of creative energy running through their system. And if that creative energy isn't allowed to express in its fullness, with equanimity, without a charge, just be, then it backlogs into the system and affects the system that is specifically holding that frequency of their femininity, which is going to be, secondary sex organs and the breasts and the ovaries and the, all of this is going to be the target, because that's the energy that resonates with that particular frequency. So as they find their power and speak into it and step into it, not just think about it, but change their perspective, give themselves permission to move forward on projects, to voice their opinion in circumstances where they've been suppressed and their parents were, and their great-grandmother never would have thought about talking about such things. That evolution is happening, but it is slow. And so when a woman is up against these moments in her life, I have worked with so many over the years. I just stopped to think about in my clinical years. What I would do is just start speaking to them like this, and they would start crying, and something would be in their story, whether they knew it or not. They would come to know it because we were addressing it. We were shining the light on it and giving permission. They were giving themselves permission with somebody standing by to honor and validate that, and out it would come, and things would stop. Not just by the conversation, but in working with the techniques that I would teach them or do with them directly to get the energy flowing again, because it was shut down. It would always come back to a conversation about not having a voice in her family, or not, watching her mother not have a voice with her father, or whatever, so many varieties of circumstances where that was modeled and deemed appropriate. And so as they begin to find that and trust that and speak into it and take action toward something, now that creative energy can be spent. It can be utilized in the way that it was designed to be utilized. And that starts the flow in the body in the natural states. Again, and tissues harmonize and the hormonal system comes around. And you can also explain this through the chemistry, that it sets someone up in a defensive state. Their adrenals are kicking cortisol into the body. Their adrenal glands exhaust. Their thyroid kicks in, trying to help the adrenal glands to keep this person upright and still fighting this silent battle that they're in. And the thyroid isn't designed to do that. So now they're in this roller coaster situation, and the body is just bearing the brunt of not knowing what it's doing, when it's supposed to be doing it, and it's just out of cycle in the misperception. The misperception is I'm not enough, or I'm not equal, or I'm not supposed to be. And when we start disempowering ourselves like that, it's one of the foundational ways that this energy gets disrupted.
And does that go for men too?
Absolutely.
So disempowering yourself, I'm not enough. There's this shame, like, of who you are, holding your throat back, basically your power, as you said, your creative expression.
Yes.
When that happens, that's one of the fundamental blocks.
Yes. And it affects men a little differently because they're encouraged to do something different. The woman was supposed to sit there and be pretty, and the guy was supposed to man up and handle it. And so it's different. It's a different shift, but they're both distortions. And with the men, it is this, I got to shove this emotion down. I got to not feel this stuff. I just got to buck up and go make this happen. And they're strong and they're vital and they're encouraged to do that. And so it's supported. And so it might take an extra decade or so for it to show up with them, but it does. So the guys with prostate issues that I was, I'm treating, is same things going on. It's just they were able to outrun it or outperform it longer before it showed up in symptom patterns for them. But it doesn't mean that that's not the stress behind the heart attack of the guy that's way too young to be, in such a situation. It's all because we're short-circuiting the systematic flow of this energy that's supposed to be happening all the time.
This resonates. And when I think about my somatic work, look, I didn't really have any teachers. I learned somatic practices, but I started seeing a lot of people from my community, and I started writing down, like, I drew a little body, and I started writing down the consistencies that I saw. And it's exactly what you said.
Yes.
Like, the body does have a language. I feel so validated hearing you say it, because I'm like, okay, I wasn't going crazy when I was pretty sure I know what it's being said here.
Yes.
And I'm so happy we're having this conversation, because I want the audience members to understand what we're speaking about is energy being blocked in the body, fundamentally not being able to move because of many subconscious things that we may not even remember. Yeah, we might remember how we grew up in a household, but there might be other things even way before we even could form our memory. So this is comprehensive and complex in many ways too. One other big one that I get, and it's piquing my interest right now, is adults saying, a lot of women listen to this, acne. They have acne, adult acne. Where's this coming from? Oh, well, I don't eat gluten. I don't eat dairy anymore. The makeup I use, I got rid of it. I clean my pillow sheets all the time. Is there an expression? I mean, it's on the skin. Is all skin the same expression of something? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So we're electromagnetic energy. We're made of electromagnetic energy. It's both electric and magnetic. And so our mind is basically functioning electrically, and our hearts are basically functioning magnetically. Our hearts draw things together. Love pulls things together. Thinking makes distinctions, separates things, figures out the differences in things, etc. So it's very separative, and the heart is, pulling things back together simultaneously. And so if we have landed in a subconscious situation where we're a little bit more in fight or flight, and we're a little dysregulated in the autonomic nervous system because we've now been in fight or flight for a while, months, years, however, decades even. If we proceed and prolong in that state, the system starts to create these imbalances, similarly to like what we were just describing with the adrenal glands, et cetera, and then the thyroid and so on. So when we are thinking how to solve our problems, we're constantly thinking and ruminating about how do I make it? What am I supposed to do? What's the right thing to do? How am I going to know if I'm making the right decision? What if I make the wrong decision? I get down the road, it's too late to make another decision. Always on this. We start to move up into our head, step up into this space where we are overthinking relative to what we need to do. This happens, and when it happens, it pulls us up and out of our bodies. It sort of disembodies us in a way. And now the energy can't flow through the system the way that it's supposed to because we're not in there grounding it and honing it and integrating it, etc. And it will come out through the skin, the bladder, the bowel, the sinuses, or the lungs. It's got to find a way out. The toxicity of the system, the energy of the system, the regular energies of normal metabolism now can't take their regular routes. So one or another of those systems bears the brunt for it. So the skin has to do with our boundaries, like my edge. Where do I belong? Where do I fit in? What's going on? Am I overgiving? Am I taking myself out of the game? Do I pull back because I don't think I belong or have what it takes to meet the demands of this world? All those kinds of things that create some sort of separation from true self and living life freely without overthinking about it. It can show up definitely in the skin in terms of the body's trying to get this out of itself as a preservative manner. So the skin is a boundary between this electromagnetic and a balancing factor in this electromagnetic harmony that we're supposed to be maintaining. So it's a way of detoxifying. It's actually trying to solve a problem, but it's trying to do the work of some other system and its own at the same time, backlogging and not able to do so.
So when we see skin issues, the eczemas, the psoriasis, the acnes, they're all expressions of the body energetically detoxing.
It's trying to detox. It's trying to get back into harmony. And when we teach someone to come back into their body, breathe in their belly, start to move energy up and down the foundational, kind of the drive shaft of this energy field and the way it runs through the body in a toric field motion, when we come back onto self and start really owning and honing that energy deep in the core of the body, it begins to shift this, and it begins to reprioritize and take an inventory on what it's been doing and how it's been allowing this system to default onto this other one and overwhelming this second system, and then it's symptomatic, like the skin would be. The beautiful thing is we can approach solution without even knowing the origin of the problem.
That's great.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of burden off. It makes it a lot
easier, yes.
Yeah, because we've sort of been conditioned that we have to go all the way back to this moment. And when I find out about this moment, all my skin issues or mental health issues will go away.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like this. I say the same thing with my somatic work is like, well, the body doesn't really care about like the details of the story. It just cares if the energy's flowing.
Yeah.
And that being the most important thing. So that's something that I was thinking about to myself.
Yeah, it's not about having to know where it started or when it started or with whom I was engaging at the time that this thing short-circuited me and shoved me down this other road. It's not about that. Sometimes those memories will come up when we start getting the energy flowing properly.
Right.
If they're relevant, they'll surface. If they're not relevant, you don't have to know in order to start moving forward and to get the system operating the way that it is supposed to. Things like contralateral exercise, belly breathing, central channel breathing, lots of different breathing patterns that people can do to reset how this energy is supposed to be flowing through the body without really, getting at the specific moment that this trap door slams shut. There is a trap door between the conscious and the subconscious. It's supposed to be open, the communication between the thalamus and the hypothalamus. And if all things are allowed to be running properly, that trap door, so to speak, stays open. And if we get overwhelmed, we shut down, we get overly frightened or moderately frightened for a long enough period of time, it has a short-circuiting effect on that communication in the center of the brain. So under those circumstances, the energy flow is going to shut down. And so we can approach it through the back door, we can get the energy flowing properly again, and it allows the trap door to open and to reestablish that communication between conscious and subconscious again, so that we can keep unpacking everything that we're unaware of. And that's what enlightenment is. It's about becoming aware of what you weren't aware of before. So as we start working with techniques and ways of being and ways of thinking, ways of breathing that allow that system to start flowing again, if the story is relevant, it will reveal itself. And the beautiful thing is, the reason things shut down at the time of the story, of the happening, was because we didn't have the circuits in place to manage what was going on. So we just shelved it. We stuck it in our pocket and just kept trying to go on. And because that worked, we do it again. And we keep doing it. But pretty soon what's in the pockets bogs us down, short circuits, and slams this door shut.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, of course. And then we're manifesting these diseases and goes, I don't know what happened. I thought I was healthy.
Yeah.
But you were just kind of drudging through life.
Yeah,
you
were getting by.
We're getting by with heavy pockets, and,
Right.
and now it's revealing itself. Like it has to reveal itself for the body to say, for you to say, okay, something I need.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't really have the resources. We go to our doctors and look only on the physical plane. I think that we're moving a little deeper now.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit before we move deep, and you'll probably still be doing this. So that's the cool part. Now you got me thinking about cancer, because I worked in oncology. That was my residency. My mom died of cancer, breast cancer, in 2011, which I'm actually interested in too, because I used to treat a lot of women with breast cancer. I know when I was doing my somatic work, I started picking up on some commonalities in cancers, but I ended up seeing a lot of breast cancer versus any other cancers. And so I'm of the belief that we know in scientific evidence there's things that cause cancer. It's well researched, well documented, right? Like the poor diet, the exercise, the smoking, the drinking. And then there's other pieces. And when I look at the pie, I sometimes think that more than 50% of the pie, maybe the whole dang pie, is a deep, energetic, psychosomatic. There's something that we're not talking about where we don't have a proper hold on cancer. And I think we're even treating it a way that is not a way that is targeted towards the root. So I say all of that to ask you, what is your approach on how you speak about cancer and the development of cancer and what's kind of happening on the energetic level?
So what's amazing is there's research that shows that the average adult could be diagnosed with cancer 7 times in the course of their life, depending on when you're doing the testing and what's going on, but that the body is designed to arrest whatever that is that's happening and metabolize it and heal itself without any kind of experience of any sort. And it's a pretty amazing thing if you think about it. So it kind of depends on what day you got tested, right? What's going on here. So there's that. The thing that you're speaking about, in my opinion, is the healer within has been shut down for too long. And so when those cells do distort and thwart and collapse and break down and then reproduce something weaker than it was supposed to be, and the next thing you know, we have a series of cells that are doing this over and over, and now we have a problem area. The healer within isn't alert to what's going on. That trap door that I was speaking about, if it's slammed shut, the communication system between what's going on in the body and what's going on in the brain is just, it's not disconnected, but it is compromised. And so under those conditions, a body isn't trying to heal, it's trying to survive. We talk about the autonomic nervous system, dysregulated, sympathetic dominance, parasympathetic suppression. And when that imbalance persists over a long period of time, we don't have the ability to come down off of fight or flight to return to healing and filtering and cleansing and replenishing and rejuvenating, repair, or even stepping into our creative genius. And so under those conditions, prolonged cellular breakdown without awareness that something needs to be addressed, then it just is able to continue to build out of control. And over time, enough of a certain kind of cell or a certain vibrational frequency that generates a particular type of cell in the body is now compromised, and we're in trouble. So then we go about, okay, let's get it out of there. Let's, excise or radiate or, burn it out with chemicals in some fashion. And usually those treatments can be so intense that it can jolt the system into, kind of jolt it out of the threat that it was fighting already, that slammed shut the trap door. Now there's a new bear in town, this chemical that's in my body. And so it can shift the body's priority system enough that kind of kicks it into gear, into a healing mode. When we see people go through intensities and have recovery, I feel that that's what's going on. That underneath the scenes, the healer was awakened by the intensity of the treatment.
Yeah, because it's so intense.
So they healed for maybe different reasons than we thought.
Yeah.
But in any sense, if the healer within was working, cancer would not be able to get started and out of control in the first place. And there are studies that show, it's called the iron law of cancer, where way back in the 70s, research was happening that over 1,000, I think there were 1,200 subjects in the study, that each could report something traumatic happening in their life a year to a year and a half prior to their diagnosis with cancer. And so that's evidence of this trapdoor slamming shut. A year and a half goes by, those cells are in breakdown mode, and replacing isn't happening because we're not aware and not healing and not moving in that direction. And so the person ends up with a chronic breakdown in what we would diagnose as a cancer. So there's far too much evidence about the effects of stress and all of that to deny that could be playing a huge role here. And I always look to, can we go deeper? Can we go deeper to this causal level in the body? The body is built to survive. It's built to self-heal and self-regulate and self-illuminate. And if those things aren't happening, there's a reason. Something has occurred that has interrupted the natural cycle. And to do good medicine, we would be going after that. What started the runaway train? What allowed it to become runaway without having some kind of guardrail or, governor in the picture?
First and foremost, at the root, that's what we practitioners should be looking for, is what blocked this flow of energy in your system.
Yeah.
Fundamentally,
Yes.
right? And what I'm hearing is that kind of doesn't matter the physical expression of the disease. It's about getting that energy flowing, and the body and its own innate intelligence will take care of itself.
Yes, it will. The nature of the expression can give us clues as to what type of story to look for, or what, and you don't even have to have the story. We keep talking about the story, and it's not like you have to remember this thing that happened when you were 5, and it all goes back to that. It's not that. It's, what has it left you feeling? Because the feeling, the held feeling that's held in the body at the cellular level is creating a vibrational shift, that is creating an environment. This is the whole thing about epigenetics, that we're recognizing that our environment is more significant than our genetic inheritance in terms of what gets turned on and what gets turned off in our genetic expression in the world. So certain kinds of dispositions turn on and turn off the genetic expression. So what that means is, if someone's parents had diabetes, we automatically assume, I'm probably going to get it because of my parents. And they go to the doctor and they want you to check off, has anybody in your family had cancer? And it's probably going to be my story too. So we're kind of living in anticipation of when my time comes. And it's part of the problem. So in it's just like a double-edged sword. We need the information, but it also creates this belief system about someone just in this subconscious way that has us constantly kind of paranoid. So epigenetics is the study that shows us that the environment is more significant than what you inherited genetically, because your environment can turn on or turn off the different telomeres that generate the genetic expression. So now we're looking at, okay, my held vibrational frequencies have an impact on whether I'm able to express in vital strength or not. So I have to take a look at, well, what's creating the environment, the vibrational environment? So we think about the foods that we eat. We're mentioning this, the exercise, the breath, the breathing, all this stuff. But it boils down to the one that eclipses everything else is the thoughts that we think on a conscious or subconscious level, the images that we hold and impressions that we hold about who we are, and if it's okay, if we're okay in the world or not. And if we think we're not okay, it might as well be true, because our body is responding as if it's not. And over time, that creates an environment where cellular collapse is inevitable. So when we're talking about something like cancer, it's not necessarily, I mean, we talked about the research project that says a year and a half prior there was something, but it also could be, maybe there wasn't a big something, but there was a smaller insidious something for all of your life, for a long time in your life, and you became so acclimated to it, you don't even know there's any different. Like the fish doesn't know it's in water because it's always been in water till you throw it up on the bank, and then it's like, I think I prefer the water. Right now it has a choice. So what I'm trying to do with people is just awaken them to the choices that they have, to recognize that, these things are happening, they're influencing you, they're affecting you, and you can do something super proactive. You don't have to go looking for the problem. You can just start cultivating the solution, cultivating the environment in which the cellular function changes, because these little antennas on the surface of the cell pick up the vibrations from your environment, and then they report it inside the cell. And that's what tells the DNA what to express and what not to express. So we want those little antennas picking up on something that's glorious, something that's magnificent, something that's real and authentic is just as valuable as something, big and flashy. It's not like you have to be joyous all the time. It's that you have to be real with you. You got to be aware of what you need instead of always pleasing and, othering and, disempowering and all of that. And those are things that we can collectively begin to do that create that environment where we're producing the chemistry that allows for healing instead of further breakdown in the system.
And most of us are living in that breakdown system. It's maybe one because of the medical model, but so many of us in the way the world is are suffering with these stories or even images, like you say. I love that you had said images that we burn in our head about ourselves and who we think we are. And compensating in these ways in the world with our identities that just like, oh, well, I think I can be loved this way the best. And it's total abandonment of like you said, real. What's the real you?
Yeah.
And I totally align with that. And so there's people viewing and listening going, great, I want to do this. Is this that they just got to start meditating? Is it breath work? Like, how do they start cultivating a space where they bring more awareness before they go and see you or someone like you or anything like that? What do they do with themselves?
Yeah. One of the things I love about some of the initial practices that someone can do is it's not everyone can just jump into meditation and do it. A lot of people get hung up. And I love working with people that aren't able to drop into just deep, steady meditation for a long enough period for it to really have an impact, or to feel enough success at it that they have the desire to try again tomorrow, because they oftentimes abandon that. But slow belly breathing, as simple as that sounds, does make a difference. It starts to slow the system and regulate it. Again, just belly breathing and breathing slower than you normally would. Just slow it down. Slow it way down. See if you can get to a 12 count on your inhale and your exhale. And that, most people are like at a 4 count before they start feeling, I got to take another breath. And so you work up to it over time. There are lots of other things that we can do as well that truly have an impact on how the nervous system can function and how this electromagnetic energy system can flow again the way that it's supposed to. So belly breathing is one. There's another thing that's just a fun little exercise. I'd love to share this with people. They come back to me and say, oh my God, that changed my life. And it has to do with giving our power away without knowing it, giving our energy away without knowing. It's the same thing. And so it's this process it's actually an ancient Eastern practice. We're going to call it subject, object, subject. And what it means is like, just pretend that somebody who pushes your buttons or, trips your triggers or whatever triggers you, comes to the door of the room that you're sitting in right now. And they're standing in the doorway right there. And notice how you feel in your body, as all of your energy rushes to them. And you think about what they've done, how it's been in your life, the challenges that it gives you. You're all up in that. And it all comes flourishing forward in an instant as a survival mechanism. And your power, your energy, your focus goes to the person in the doorway. When your energy and focus goes to the person in the doorway, it leaves home. It's now not on you, it's on them. And these tiny little quantum particles called photons, these little packets of energy that are what make up everything, they follow thought. They're so tiny and so quantum that they are influenced by our attention. If we put our attention over there, they go over there. If we put our attention in here, they come back in here. They get activated in our system or outside of our system. It's pretty phenomenal. Quantum science, vacuum tube, empty it of everything, few random photons in there. As experiments, they can determine that if they think a certain thought, those photons arrange in a certain way. If they think a different thought, the photons arrange differently. If they take a human DNA cell and put it in that strand in there, inside the vacuum, the photons arrange in accordance with the DNA that's been put there. So we have an influence on our DNA, and our DNA has an influence on our environment. This is basically what it's telling us. And so there's a lot of power there. So what we want is to call that power back onto ourselves, because it also happens to be our power to heal. It happens to be the juice that is required for innate intelligence to do what it's here to do. We have to stay scattered and not splatted and dispersed. So here's the person standing in the doorway, and your energy rushes over there. And if you just pay attention to how you feel when how you feel in your body when that person's standing in the doorway, heart rate goes up, you feel empty inside, you get a little anxious feeling. And if you just simply, while you're looking at them in the doorway, just being polite, carrying on the conversation, just secretly pull your energy back onto you. Just pull it back onto you while you're looking at them. And what happens is the heart rate changes, all sorts of biochemical status changes and shifts instantly. And what's happening is we're building a sense of self here in the core. And that sense of self is required to stabilize the mind so that it's not, juggling all types of scenarios and who do I have to please, what do I have to do to be okay and to be safe. There's a sense of safety and well-being that's established instantly. So that's being on subject instead of being on object. And so then just project your energy back onto the person in the doorway. Notice how you feel inside. It does not feel good. Pull the energy back. You can do this sitting at dinner with beloveds. You can just you're secretly doing this back and forth. Yeah. And it establishes a freedom of my mind and its automatic responses to things versus my conscious ability to choose in any moment where I'm putting my energy. As I draw that energy back onto the self, it increases the healer within. It increases photon density in the core. Sensory nervous system can pick up on, oh, there's somebody in there. There's somebody in here. Oh, I guess I have a little bit more value than I thought I did. Oh, there's somebody here that I want to protect or take care of or nurture or encourage. And it starts to establish less victimization and a greater sense of creatorship and command in our lives, which leads to the environment that those little antennas on the cells need to send the signal into the cells, all is well. And then we start producing chemistries of healing instead of chemistries of, there's a bear in the room. We got to keep our adrenaline flowing just in case we have to fight or run. So subject, object, subject. It's a fun little exercise. And people will come back to me and say, oh my gosh, how could something so simple? It changed my work life. I'm able to not lose my cool, or I'm able to have the wherewithal to ask for that raise when it's time for my review. My boss is looking at me and doing whatever. I can keep it together in all kinds of situations that I didn't used to. There is a central channel breath, which is really helpful for people because it activates many of the different energy centers in the body, which correlate to different aspects of our consciousness and our ability to integrate our wisdom with our power, with our love, with our ability to speak our truth and our awareness of who and what we really are. And if we have an understanding about how the energy flows through the body, It flows like, it's called a toric field, Toric, or a torus. And it flows like the energy comes down from overhead, hits all the way down through the body, hits the earth, rises up from the earth, and cycles and rises up through the body and cycles around and around and around the body in rising up through the core and out through the crown and back around again into the tip of the spine. This is measurable. The Institute of Heart Math uses this all the time in lots of their research and enhancing the power of the heart for coherence and healing in the body. And it's something that we've been doing for decades in terms of working with patients and clients and turning their health around, getting them to breathe up and down the central shaft of this toric field system. Because when they breathe up and down this, it allows for the movement. It's sort of the as I said earlier, the drive shaft for moving this energy through the body. When the energy is moving, we're healing. When the energy is stagnant, we're not. So it's about getting it moving again. So I'll have people breathe from, like breathing from the earth up through their body, right up into their belly, and exhale from the belly up through the heart, through the throat, through the center of the brain, and out the top of the head. Just imagine it and intend it. And then from a breath again now from overhead, right down through the center of the brain, through the throat, through the heart, into the belly, and then exhaling down through the bottom of the spine, the tip of the spine, through the legs and the feet if you're standing, or just straight into the earth if you're sitting. And breathing again, then up and out the top of the head, and then down into the core of the body and down into the earth. By reestablishing that central channel breath, it automatically, it's like starting the engine of the car. You have to turn the key, and as you do, and you hit the gas a little bit, now things are running. And this kind of a breath does that same igniting of how this energy is to flow through the body naturally. And there are lots of things that we can do that just take a little bit more time to explain, but all of it starts to move an integrative energy through the body that allows for these signals of coherence to be established, and for this trapdoor in the midbrain area to open and to allow access to these higher brain centers where we can choose to be relaxed and actually relax. As when the trapdoor is shut, we can choose to relax, but
not feel it.
It doesn't happen. Yeah, we didn't get the good news that it's okay.
I love these tangible exercises. I can feel how often I am out of my body with people versus actually feeling the sense of self.
Yes.
It takes like a lot. I actually have to sit down, close my eyes, like, oh, there I am,
Yes, have to find it.
But it's really potent. What you said is that when you bring your power back, your nervous system is like, oh, hi, welcome back.
Yes.
You
and it's like, thank God you're back, because I've been doing all this on my own, and it's too much.
Yes,
right?
It's too much. So it's like, wow, okay, so that's incredible, because viewers and listeners, ask yourself how often you let your energy go to other people.
Yeah.
And you can take it back and do that practice. Even if you're talking to your partner, just feel like, okay, if I'm with myself, how does that feel? Ooh, that feels nice.
It feels really
I'm
good.
slowing down, I'm grounding, I have that sense of presence. And that breathing is fantastic. I'm aware of the torus field, but I haven't heard this central breathing. So something that I'm going to try myself.
Yay, please do.
Yeah.
It's really phenomenal what can happen. And I mean, people will just start crying, or they'll feel softened, or they'll feel elated. They'll shift because they've actually come home. They're reconnecting mind and body and breath together again. Because when they get dispersed from one another, we get fried. And when they're back on each other, it's, together they are more. And so it's just a beautiful way to allow, initiating that
Such
process.
a great breath work too. We're not like kind of breathing fast and like super activating. It's like connecting back to like spirit and earth.
Yes.
And your body.
Yes.
All of the things that are like for coherence, like you said.
Yeah.
I wish I had an hour and a half left, but you're a busy woman, and I don't got you for an hour and a half. So how do people find you? What are you doing? Do they work with you one-on-one? Is it a course type thing? Like, how do people learn more about you?
Yeah. Well, Morter Institute has 3 schools, and we teach School for Higher Consciousness, where we're talking about these kinds of things and giving you techniques and things that you can do. We also have another school that teaches you how to work on other people, for our practitioners out there, to really move this energy in mass with another person, or with groups of people for that matter. And another school that is Body Awake Yoga, which is actually teaching yoga and anchoring consciousness in the core of the body while we're going through yoga asana, which is tremendous for building new circuitry for people. But I get beautiful results with all of that as well, which was a nice surprise and an aside from everything that I was doing. I teach online lots. I have a website, drsuemorter.com. I have a book out, the Energy Codes, that takes you step by step through so many practices that you can do and learn. And there's an online version of that. When you get the book, you can click on links that will give you demonstrations for all these kinds of things. I teach a year-long study program for people who want the deep dive on all of that. I have many programs that are introductory for people. The Art of Awakening podcast that I do, and also an event called Heal Yourself, Heal Your Life that we do, that thousands of people from all over the world get together, and we come in and just do it together all day long for 3 days, and it's just it's a wonderful healing session. I've complementary healing transmission things that I do, where I'm walking people through these things monthly, quarterly. So I'm easy to find. I got a YouTube channel and all that stuff.
You're easy to find. You just type it in, and there's going to be a lot of pop-ups.
Yeah, right.
And you're not tired of it. You're not worn out. You are re-energized every day.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I had some awakenings 25 years ago that just changed my life forever. It opened up this trap door for me in a very big way, and it has changed so much. I had migraine headaches that were debilitating. I healed a scoliosis in my body as a byproduct of this, and I just feel compelled to pay it forward. That's why I'm on the planet. So
amazing
it's a
stuff.
joy to do.
I had such fun on this podcast. This is like I'm enlightened. I feel so enlightened. I feel connected to Source, connected to Earth.
Beautiful.
And I feel elated and inspired. Thank you so much for coming in and really educating the viewers and listeners. This is a diamond gem, and I'm going to have everyone listen, including my family, my girlfriend, my friends. Y'all going to listen to this. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. It's my joy. Thank you for having me.
All right.